Hello, BookTube. My name is Janelle, and my channel is Too Fond of Books. And this is the final live reading sprints that I'm going to host for March Mystery Madness. I can't believe that we are already at the end of March. This has been such a fun month of reading mysteries with everybody and chatting, and I have just had so much fun, and I've absolutely loved doing these live reading sprints. They've been so much fun. I really didn't know what to expect the first time I did it, but it has been so much fun reading with you guys and chatting with you guys. Reading is my absolute favorite thing to do. And so being able to do that with other people has just been so much fun. So for this afternoon, we are going to do some reading sprints for sure. Oh, hello, Emily is here. Hello, Emily. We're going to do some reading sprints. We're going to do some chatting, and I have a surprise for everybody. So that's going to be a lot of fun. So I was just going to chat a little bit first and then show you show you my surprise, Emily. So first, Donna. Hello, Donna. Nice to see you. Woohoo! All right. So one thing that I was thinking about, since we're so close to the end of the month here, I started to think about what were some of my favorite reads so far for March Mystery Madness, because let's be honest, there are still a few days left and I am going to finish a couple more books, but I have had some really great reads so far. I think my favorite of the month has to be Full Dark House by Christopher Fowler. That one was just so fun. So that is the very first in his Peculiar Crimes Unit series, which is set in London. And it has Arthur Bryant and John May are the detectives in the squad. Breezy-Ann Reeds, nice to see you here. This has worked out well for on your lunch break. I'm glad that you're spending at least some of it with us. That's so great. So I loved reading Full Dark House because I've read a whole bunch in the series and I feel like I've gotten to know the characters, but for some reason I had never read the first one. And at first it was because I just didn't have the book. And then I got the book and I read the synopsis and I thought, I don't know if I want to read this. I'm going to hold off, because even though I've read the rest of the series, what they talked about happening in the first book just was like, I now love these characters and this just feels really hard. So in the very first book, Arthur Bryant is in the offices when there's an explosion. And so, he dies in the explosion and there's a funeral and everything. And then John May is trying to look into what happened. And he thinks back to their first case as detectives together when they were really, really young. And it was during the Blitz in London. And so I love that you got to meet them as young detectives. But of course, I wasn't sure what it meant that Arthur Bryant died at the beginning, because I had read so many more books in the series. And so I thought, all right, well, there's a couple of reasons here. It could be that it turns out that he didn't die in the explosion, and therefore we have there's 20 books in the series. But it could also have meant that he did die and that the rest of the books in the series are just looking back at the cases that they investigated together. And because I didn't know one way or the other, that's why I kind of avoided the book for a little bit. But I'm so glad I read it. It was really, really fun. And yeah, I think that's my favorite read so far of the month. So what about you guys? What has been your favorite March Mystery Madness read? So far, I guess. I mean, you could be reading your absolute favorite right now. But yeah, I would love to hear from you. What has been the favorite that you've read so far this month? All right. And like I said, I have a bit of a surprise coming up. Breezy-Ann, I had Full Dark House on my TBR, but didn't get to it. Maybe I can get to it in April. Yeah. It's a really fun read. I love being introduced to the characters, seeing them as young detectives. It was really good. All right. So I watched a video earlier this week with Sarah from the Bookish Knitter, and she had brought a surprise bag from her library and did a reveal on her channel of what came in this bag. And I thought that was so much fun, and I was a little bit disappointed that our library didn't do anything like that. Ooh, Emily liked Saint X, but is reading Bluebird right now, and I think that one might be my fave. Ooh, I have heard of Bluebird, some things about Bluebird. I can't wait to hear your thoughts once you finish it, Emily. Donna's has been Daughters of the Night. Who wrote that, Donna? That sounds familiar. The title sounds familiar. So I went on my library website just to see, also because we're about to head into another lockdown here. The numbers have been skyrocketing in our city, and so they've called for another lockdown, which starts tomorrow. And so the libraries are closing, and I mean, everything's closing. And so I wanted to see, I thought maybe I'll see if they have something like this, then I will get it before everything shuts down. Breezy Ann says, Endless Night was your favorite so far. That's Agatha Christie. Awesome. Ooh, and you read a couple of Elizabeth Peters, and you're still working on The Scapegoat. Ooh, you've read some good stuff this month, Breezy Ann. Nice. So I went on, excuse me. I went on, I'm drinking some Diet Coke, so I apologize. I went on our library's website to see if they had mystery bags or anything like that, and I discovered something that they call grab and go bags, which is turned out to be really fun. Donna says, oh, the one that's the follow-up to Blood and Sugar. Okay, Daughters of the Night is by Laura Shepard Robinson. Maybe that's why it sounded familiar. I've heard of Blood and Sugar, but I have not read it yet. This one follows the wife. The first one follows the husband. Interesting. Very interesting. So I looked at these grab and go bags, and the library is willing to put together a bag of between 5 and 20 books, sort of curated to your tastes, but still as a surprise. Inking Your Thinking. Nice. I'm so glad you're here. Death in the Clouds. Oh, yeah. I love Death in the Clouds. That one is such a good Hercule Poirot. So I took a look at what they offered, and they have a form that you can fill out online on their website with kind of like, what genre do you prefer? And then some information like, do you want magazines? Do you want picture books? Do you want graphic novels? Do you want fiction, nonfiction? And then they give you a spot to put, like they say, tell us 2 or 3 of your favorite authors or books, and then they would go from there. Donna. Yeah, I think I would like those ones too. I need to see if our library has those. They sound really, really good. So I filled out the online form, and I decided to be, prudent, and I only asked for 5 books. I said I wanted mysteries, and I gave a few of my favorite series, my favorite authors, and I got my bag, my grab and go bag. So I thought it would be fun if I saw what I got with you guys here on the live show. And so I have not looked yet at what's in here. So this is what I got. I love my library, Regina Public Library, and that is accurate. I do love my library. Now, one very funny thing, actually, when I went to pick this up, the the woman who had put it together, the library staffer who put it together, she was really nervous. She was like, I don't like doing these at all. What if you don't like these books? And she was really nervous about it. And I said, you know what? It's totally fine. What makes something like this so much fun is the surprise, is the mystery. I love not knowing what's in this bag, and whatever she's put in here, it's just going to be fun. I may have read some of them. I may not be interested in some of them, but these are 5 books and I don't know anything about them except that they're mysteries. And so I'm really excited. So let's see the first book that I got in my bag. Oh, Charles Todd, A Forgotten Place. This is one of the best Crawford series. I love Charles Todd. The Ian Rankin is my favorite series that they write, but I do enjoy the Bess Crawford ones as well. These ones are during World War I, and she is a nurse during World War I, but as the series goes on, the war is over, because the last one that I read, she was nursing during the armistice, and that was actually a really interesting scene. So she was like on the front lines, and it was written when when the armistice, 11 o'clock on the 11th of November, and then it just went silent. All the guns stopped, and it was such a great scene in the book because it was just so, I don't know, it was just so deep, just to have this, she's been working away and the ambulances are coming back and forth and there's still all these injured soldiers coming in, and then it just goes silent. Whew, it was, it was a great scene. Marilyn, hi Marilyn. I love cozies, so my favorite this month has been Body on Baker Street by Vicki Delaney. Is that the one that's part of the Sherlock Holmes Bookshop series? I haven't read that one yet, but I've heard of it and I totally want to read that one soon. All right, so this one is from 2018 and I can't remember if I've read this one yet. So the armistice has been signed and the guns silenced. The suffering has not ended. Many soldiers carry wounds that are still agonizingly raw and may never heal. Back in England, but remaining in service, battlefield nurse Bess Crawford has been assigned to a clinic for the severely injured. Among these patients are Welsh soldiers who will return home to their valley utterly changed. No longer can they work in their old jobs mining coal. Though she does her best to raise their spirits, Bess knows the future will be difficult for them and their families when they are finally released. She fears that peace will do what war could not, take their lives. A few weeks after they return home, their officer, Captain Hugh Williams, writes to describe their despair and his own at trying to save his men. Bess feels compelled to look into their situation, but the army and the clinic can do nothing. When her reply comes back marked return to sender, she decides to act. Due for 10 days of leave, Bess quietly travels to that bleak coal mining village in Wales, but she is too late. I have not read this one yet, so this is exciting. All right, so really well done there with the first book in the bag. Oh, it is Marilyn. It's from that series. Great. Yes, I know. I'm so excited. All right, so the first one was a big winner. It's the second one, Marilyn, in the series. Elementary She Read, I believe, is the first one. I know. I've got it on my list of books that I'm keeping an eye on at the library, and I'll get eventually. The Mystery of Mysteries. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Okay, it's time to pull out the second book from this bag. What do we have? Oh, yes! All the Devils Are Here, Louise Penny. I love this series, and I have not read this one yet. And I've been really curious because in this one, Gamache and his wife go to Paris to visit his son and his family. And this is the latest in that series. So I am really looking forward to this one. I love this series. I love her writing. I love Armand Gamache. And to have it all set in Paris is just really exciting. And look at that. Isn't that great for end papers? I love it. All right. So 2 for 2. This is really exciting. Ooh, Donna, is it All the Devils Are Here? You haven't read it yet? Ooh. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting into that one. Okay, let's see. The third book. Oh, all right. So Jacqueline Winspear, To Die But Once. Now, this is from her Maisie Dobbs series, and I have started reading this series, but this is further on than I have gotten in the series. So let me see. I believe that I am only fifth or sixth on the fifth or sixth book into the series. So this one I will return to the library because I do want to read this series in order. I think this is one of those series that you do have to read in order because of the characters and relationships and stuff that happens. But this is also a good series. The first one starts shortly after the First World War, and Maisie Dobbs opens a detective agency. And so, yeah, I really enjoy this series too. So again, another good pick. Like, so far they've done really well choosing the types of books that I like to read. So even though I'm not going to read this one, it was definitely a good pick for me. All right. So, Inking Your Thinking. Descriptions of the war are intense in the very best way. So real. Yes, in the Charles Todd books, because it's a mother-son writing team. And yes, even the Ian Rutledge series, which takes place post World War I, you still get like just some of the descriptions of war, but you get mostly the consequences of war because Ian Rutledge is suffering from PTSD and dealing with the things that he saw and had to do during the war. And they do a really good job of writing that stuff. I totally agree. Okay, book number 4. Anne Perry, Triple Jeopardy. This is from the Daniel Pitt series. Now, this is interesting because I love Anne Perry as well. I've read the Charlotte and Thomas Pitt series and the William Monk series, but I have not yet read anything from the Daniel Pitt series, and I don't think that this is the first one in that series. And again, I like to read them in order. Okay, so this looks like it's maybe the second one in that series. So again, I think I'm going to return this one and start at the beginning of this series. But I do think it's really interesting that she's taken a character that you are already familiar with and given them their own series. So of course, this takes place a little bit later, so like kind of early 1900s, which is really interesting. And I'd be really curious to read a story about Daniel kind of as a grown-up, as his own detective. And I'm not sure if Daniel is in the police or if he's just a private detective. But yeah, this is a good reminder that I do want to read this series as well. Okay, the last book. Ooh, now this is one that is totally a surprise for me. I've never read anything by Jude Deveraux. This is called A Forgotten Murder, a Medlar mystery. All right, well, let's get into this and find out what we have. An English manor home, ooh, check. An unsolved mystery, check. Too many suspects to count, check. It's the perfect holiday for romance novelist Sarah Medlar. Has anybody read Jude Deveraux? Do you know anything about this author? I'm intrigued. After solving 2 murder cases in their hometown of Laughlin, Florida, Sarah Medlar, her niece Kate, and their friend Jack need a change of scenery. Sarah arranges for them to visit an old friend of hers in England. Upon arrival at Oxley Manor, a centuries-old estate that has been converted to a luxury hotel, Kate and Jack quickly realize that Sarah is up to something. They learn that Sarah has also invited a number of others to join them at Oxley. When everyone assembles, Sarah lets them know why they are there. Decades earlier, Two people ran off together from Oxley and haven't been heard from since, and Sarah wants to solve the case. As the people who were there the night the two went missing, the guests find themselves cast in a live mystery theater event. Ooh. In reenacting the events of that night, it becomes clear that everyone has something to hide and no one is safe, especially when the discovery of a body makes it clear that at least one of the people who disappeared was murdered. Sarah, Jack, and Kate are once again at the heart of a mysterious case that only they are able to solve, but someone is willing to continue to kill to keep the truth about Oxley Manor buried, and none of the guests are safe. That sounds great. And this is totally not a book I would have picked up on my own, I think. So this is really exciting. This one truly is a mystery of mysteries. It was a surprise. So that's what's so fun about doing something like this, is to see these kind of things, like to find a book that you may not have discovered on your own. All right. So Emily. Oh, so Jude Devereaux also writes romances. That's very interesting. So not surprising, I guess, that once she decided to write a mystery, she made her character a romance novelist. That makes sense. Helen, yay, nice to see you. You're at work right now, but you're going to come back? Sweet. All right. Well, thanks for checking in, and I can't wait to see you again when you're back from work. Breezy Ann. Third in a trilogy. You read the first one and really liked it. This one's the third in a trilogy. Very interesting. You know what? I don't normally like to read out of order, but I'm going to in this case just because I've never read anything by this author, and yeah, and I want to give it a whirl. I think the mysteries might be unrelated, so you might not read them in order. Okay, good. Perfect. Same characters, probably not really a trilogy, not sure. Okay. Oh, I should check maybe the date on that one. Oh, 2020. So this is a new one. Really interesting. So that's really exciting. Ooh, let me do one of those fancy book piles. Let me see if I can do that. Ooh. So this was a really fun little experiment. So this one I'm going to read because it's the next up in the series that I've already been reading and loving. Same with Louise Penny. Jacqueline Winspear. I'm not going to read this one, but it is a good reminder to me that I need to keep reading in this series. And Anne Perry, again, a good reminder that I need to start the Daniel Pitt series. And then Jude Devereaux, the surprise in the bag, and I'm excited to give that a whirl. I mean, and that sounds, I mean, how fun does that sound anyway, right? You know, a trip to an English manor house and a cold case mystery sounds good to me. So that was super, super fun. I love my library. Okay. So I think we are about to start a reading sprint. What do you guys think? Are you ready to do a reading sprint? I'll show you the books that I have with me to choose to read from. I'm like a little more than halfway through The Sanatorium by Sarah Pierce. This one's interesting. First of all, I love this cover. I think the cover is great. And it's set in the Swiss Alps in a brand new hotel that has been renovated. An old sanatorium for patients with tuberculosis has been renovated into a hotel. And our main character, Elin, and her boyfriend have gone there for an engagement party. Her brother Lucas is engaged to Laura, who works at the hotel. So they're there for an engagement party. And then there's a massive snowstorm and heavy risk of avalanche. So the hotel is supposed to be evacuated, but before the last bus can go, there is an avalanche, and now everybody is stuck at the hotel, and then they find a body. So classic. But yeah, I'm enjoying that one so far. Emily says, those bags work well for library books since you can take it back if you don't like. Same with the blind Blind date with a book. Yeah, I've heard of that, blind date with a book. What, it's just such a fun idea. I just think it's so much fun. But yes, yeah, buying a blind date with a book at a bookstore though, I agree with you, Emily, that is so risky because I mean, you're paying full price for a book. What if you already have it? What if you've already read it? What if you've already read it and you didn't like it? Like, there's just so much. I would rather do it from a library where you can just return it. And it's, yeah, I agree with you 100%. Okay, I also have The Haunting of Maddie Clare by Simone St. James. This is for the prompt of person. And I've started this one. I'm only 28 pages into this one, but it's interesting so far. It is set in 1920s in England, and there's a young woman who kind of needs work. She doesn't have a lot of money, and so she works for like an agency, and the job that she gets called out to do, she works for this agency doing like secretarial kind of work, and so she gets a job working for a guy who is like, he's essentially a ghost hunter. It sounds like he's documenting cases of ghost sightings. And so the guy he normally works with is sick. And so he needs someone to record this stuff. And so she goes with him to, I can't remember where it is, but, supposedly there's a ghost of a 19-year-old maid, Maddie Clare, who is said to haunt the barn where she committed suicide. So this is a good old ghost story, and so far so good. And then my other one, oh, Donna, you read The Sanatorium. You really enjoyed it? Excellent. I mean, I love a good isolated mystery, and this one definitely is, because now that the avalanche has hit, they are completely cut off and nobody can get to them for probably a couple of days because of the avalanche. And I love that setup for a mystery. The other book, and I haven't started reading this one yet, is My Foe Outstretched Beneath the Tree by V.C. Clinton Badley. This was written in the 60s, I believe. 68. And this is for the bonus prompt of a book that the title attracted me. And yeah, I like this title, My Foe Outstretched Beneath the Tree. And that comes from, it's a quote from William Blake, actually, in the beginning here, they have it. In the morning, glad I see my foe outstretched beneath the tree. So yeah, so this one, the back says it's a classic English story of detection. Amateur detective Dr. R.V. Davey. To enter his world is like settling into a beautiful house, all discreet order and comfort. But a walk outside in the lovely maze might disclose a body, done to death mysteriously and brutally. It is then that Dr. Davey really comes to life. All right, so these are my choices for what we're going to read during the reading sprints. So if you guys are all set, then let's do our first reading sprint. We'll do 20 minutes if that works with you guys. Let me know what you think. Do you want to go now, or do you want to wait a couple of minutes and start on the half hour? I'm going to keep going with The Sanatorium because I'm really into it now, and so I want to find out what's going to happen. Although there is an interesting thing here with the main character, is there's been like something that she has not told her very serious boyfriend, and I can't figure out why she wouldn't have told him. Like, it doesn't make sense to me, and I don't get that kind of willful miscommunication. Like, the reasons she thinks that she has for not telling him are weird to me. Yeah. On the half hour. Yeah. Okay. So let's do it in a minute on the half hour. Breezy Ann. Oh, you ran out of time for it? Yeah, well, maybe you want to get it again. I mean, it's really atmospheric, definitely isolated. Um, yeah, and so far so good. I mean, there's a lot of there's a lot of history in here, her relationship with her brother is fairly strained. There's a lot of family history there. There's also the history of the hotel because they've renovated it from what used to be a sanatorium, and so there's that history that's going on as well. So yeah, it's been really interesting. Okay, so 15 seconds, and we will start our first reading sprint. What are you guys reading this afternoon? All right, I am setting the timer and we are starting now. here. All right, there's the timer. Okay, so how did your first reading sprint go? Welcome here, Tiffany from the Beach Bum Bookworm. She showed up during our sprint. And Inking Your Thinking came back. Someone had the audacity to interrupt her reading time. We all understand what that's like. All right, so I got some more read. It's getting very interesting here at the sanatorium. How did it go for you guys? Okay, so last week, I think I may have been reading this book during our reading sprints last week, but I did talk about this in my my wrap-up video last week. And this one was an interesting book because of the ending. And I think I even read the ending and wanted your guys' opinions. Gisela, hi, welcome here. Ooh, Emily, you're out for a walk and you've listened to chapter 1 on Bluebird. Breezianne, at least you got your lunch eating. That's important. So this was the only book in this series by this author that I had ever read, and I couldn't decide what I thought about the end. And so I decided that I needed to read some more by this author to try and get him, because I got the impression reading this book that he maybe liked to play around with tropes and possibly even subvert tropes. Now, you can tell from this cover that this is a golden age style mystery. And it definitely read that way. Like, there were often times when I felt that as I was reading, I had to remind myself that it was contemporary, that it wasn't in the 30s, because it really did feel like it. And just this cover, do you guys agree? Does this cover look like a golden age style mystery? Like, you get a definite impression about what kind of mystery you're going to read from this cover, right? Donna read, ooh, the first 19 pages of The Scunthorpe Murder by Karen Charlton. Cool. I haven't read that. Okay, so let me know, do you agree that you get a really particular idea of the type of mystery you're going to read with this kind of cover? So I decided to see if my library had any books in that series, because I wanted to read more so I could try and figure out this author. And the library did have some books in that series, including the first one, which is called The Hunt for Sonia Dufret, A Country House Crime by R.T. Rakev. But look at this. It's a very different cover, isn't it? I just find it so interesting. So this is the first in the series, and this one I believe is the fourth, maybe even the fifth. Let's see. Yes, this is the fifth in the series. Obviously a different edition, but like, I would never have guessed that these books were in the same series looking at these two covers. Inking Your Thinking agrees. It looks like a modern take on a golden age mystery. Exactly. And yeah, they are so different. I just thought that was so interesting. And they've stopped calling them, by this point in the series, they've stopped calling them A Country House Crime and started calling them an Antonia Darcy and Major Payne mystery. So at what point in the series did he decide to change the name of the series? Like, I also find that very interesting. So now I have a ton of questions about this series and about this author. I cannot figure it out. So anyways, I will let you guys know once I've read this one, if there's more of that, like subverting the trope kind of idea. I just thought that was so interesting. Yeah. I mean, and I realize that the author may not always have a lot of say in the cover or that, like, kind of how a book is marketed, but I do find that very, very interesting because they are so very different. Elizabeth, welcome. Popping in for a few minutes to say hi. There are so many live streams today. Yeah, I noticed, but I'll have to watch most of them later. I know there were already a bunch this morning, and then there's still some this afternoon. Saturdays are a big live stream day on BookTube, but hey, that's all right. Any excuse to get some reading done, right? So I say let's do another sprint at the top of the hour. Are you guys okay with that? We'll do another 20-minute sprint at 2 o'clock or at the top of the hour. I think that would be great because also I need to know what's going to happen in here. Inking Your Thinking says, is it on purpose or not? That's the question, and that probably influences how you feel about it. Yeah, I agree. That is the question, and it totally does influence how you think about a book. I mean, I would have been attracted to this because I enjoy English country house mysteries, and that's what I would think when I look at this cover. This attracted me because it felt very golden age, and I honestly thought that I was getting a historical mystery in this one, so I was actually really surprised to find that it was a contemporary book. Gisela, now you're not sure? I know, right? Yeah, I know. It's so interesting. All right, Tiffany's in for a reading sprint at the top of the hour. So is Emily. Excellent. Emily, are you still out walking? Good for you. It's gotten very cloudy here. I think we might get some more rain. In the past couple of days, we've gotten a bit of rain, and then it's cooled off and it's turned into snow. We woke up this morning, there's a skiff of snow on the ground. It's that time of year where the weather could turn at any minute. It could be rain, it could be snow. I think tomorrow is supposed to be 12 degrees, and then the Monday is supposed to be minus 14. Like, it just never, it can't decide what it wants to do. All right, so yeah, I agree. Let's do a reading sprint at the top of the hour. So in 2 minutes, we'll do another 20-minute reading sprint. So yeah, this has been the things that have been interesting me recently, and the questions that I have about how books are promoted and what covers look like and stuff like that. So what do you guys think about this stuff? Like, how much does the cover of a book influence your choice to pick it up or not? Because I will confess it does. It does affect mine, especially if I'm just browsing. Like, if I'm just browsing and say in the library and reading the shelves, I mean, often it's going to be the cover that leads me to grab a book and look more closely into it. That's for sure. You're right. Not many guys walk around in that style. And even her style a little bit too, right? Like, they look like they could be from the 30s or 40s. Yeah, 100%. Emily's still out for a walk. Good for you. So yeah, what do you guys think? Cover, how important is the cover for you? Will you still pick up a book if the cover it looks totally awful, but maybe because you recognize the author, or maybe the title itself intrigued you enough that despite the cover, you picked it up anyway? Emily, you're in Texas, right? So it's muggy, so you might get some rain later. Tiffany says she's a big cover buyer, like an impulse buy. Like the candy bar at the checkout counter. Yeah, I get that. I do. Donna is a cover magpie. That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, it's totally true that the cover really does affect your initial, your initial impression of whether or not you actually want to pick up that book. I do. It totally does. And there have been times, I will admit, where if I know the author, I'll pick up the book even if the cover doesn't really draw me in. I'll still grab the book because I know the author, and inking, you're thinking that's exactly what it is, right? It's more important than it should be. I mean, yeah, because honestly, it should be the content that gets you, to read a book. But I mean, you don't know the content really until you start reading it anyway. Yeah. I will often still look into a book and read the synopsis and stuff, even if I don't like the cover. But I will confess that often, if I'm just like, I've got a bunch of books that I'm browsing in front of me, it's a cover that attracts my attention, that I'll pick that book up before I pick up the other ones. It's totally true. Emily, oh yeah, you're in the Dallas area? Yeah. Donna says, if it's a rubbish cover, I'm more likely to get an ebook version because then I don't have an ugly cover on my shelf. Oh, that's awesome. Oh, Emily, nowadays, since I have so much on my TBR, I have to read the summary, even if the cover is really nice, have to be picky. Yeah, 100%. I know. I get that. There's so many books that I have to choose from that, yeah, I can't pick a book solely by the cover. And I know a lot of people that don't even read the synopsis, that like to go into a book 100% blind. And I'm not really that person. I need to know at least something about the book that I'm going to read before I start reading it. Yeah. Oh, and it's after the hour. Okay, so let's do another reading sprint, another 20-minute reading sprint. If you guys are up for that, I say, let's do it. Okay, I've started the timer. Second reading sprint now. Oh, hang on. Oh, inking, you're thinking, that is 100% accurate. It is very confusing if the cover doesn't match the story. If the cover, I honestly feel a bit cheated if the cover isn't at all what the story's about, if it's made me think I'm going to get one thing. I mean, expectations play a huge part for me in whether or not I enjoy a book, and you definitely get expectations based on the cover. 100%. Hi, Donna. Nice to see you here. Shannon, you are just in time for a sprint. We just started a couple minutes ago. Hi, Helen. Welcome back. We just started another reading sprint. Ooh, yeah. And then there were none. So good. Hello, Michelle. Nice to see you here. We're just in the middle of a reading sprint, so if you've got a book with you, you can read with us. And then let me see, about 7 minutes, we've got about 7 minutes left in our reading sprint. Oh, that was the timer has gone off, which is very unfortunate because this book has just gotten really exciting. And I'm like this close to being done the chapter. I'm here. All right, but how much did I get read? 35 pages, maybe? Whew. Very exciting. I'm starting to have some ideas about what's going on in that book, but of course I could totally be wrong. Okay, so that was a good reading sprint. I got some good reading done. It's very, very exciting. Oh, thank you. I can just keep going. I will ignore you guys entirely. All right, so Helen joined us again during that reading sprint. She popped back on. She is currently reading And Then There Were None, which is a book that I just finished a reread of and loved it. It was so, so good. And Michelle popped on during that reading sprint too. Hello, Michelle. And Donna says hi to everyone. Ooh, Emily has done her walk and she read 18 pages in her book. So you listened to audio while you were walking and now you're reading physically in your book, Emily? Same book or a different book? Do you read different, like do you listen to one book and read a different book, or do you like do combinations of ways to read a book? I'm curious. Shannon. Ooh, Shannon got to a good book too. The Girl Who Played with Fire by Stieg Larsson. I have not read that series. That one is not the first one in that series, right? Are you liking that series? Tell me about that series. I have not read that yet. I have heard a lot about it. Michelle. Hi, Michelle. Oh, there's my lovely mother-in-law. Hello. Now I have to behave myself because my mother-in-law is on my live show. Oh, Emily says, yes. So you listen to it when that works best for you, and then otherwise you read a physical copy? That's interesting. Donna, ooh, 22 pages. That's good. Michelle. No, it's not. I'm not sure. Emily does like to do combinations, and you just happen to have both audio and print versions of Bluebird. Are you enjoying it so far? Now, I am not familiar with Leo. Leo is a new viewer, but it's not April Fool's Day. Or is that what you're reading? Tell us more, Leo. Shannon, it's the second book in the series. Quite intense. I had heard that it's quite intense. A bit too much for you. Crime, thriller, then mystery. Yeah. Oh, and you've seen the films. I haven't seen the films either. I'm a little scared. It does sound quite intense. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. I don't mind a little bit of intense, and I can handle a bit of violence and stuff, but not too much. And actually, that's an interesting comment, saying that it's more of a thriller, crime thriller, than a mystery. I was having this conversation with somebody in the comment section of one of my videos. Shannon, it was a different Shannon. Oh, Sharon. It was Sharon. And she said that she prefers mysteries to thrillers. And I agree. Like, if I had to choose, because there seems to be kind of like that umbrella of mystery, suspense, and thriller. And I am definitely on the mystery side. There are some people I know that love the thrillers. That's what they prefer to read. And I do read a few thrillers. but my preference is definitely on the mystery side. Emily is liking Bluebird. Bluebird, excellent. Michelle, the girl who plays with fire. No, it's not the first book in the series. No, that's the girl with the dragon tattoo, right? I think that's the first book in the series. Shannon says the films are excellent, but way over the top intense at times. I wouldn't actually recommend, especially for triggers. Yeah, a little bit scary. Although I think I'm quite the wuss. Yeah. So, at the beginning of this live show, live reading sprints, we were talking a bit about the library because I got my surprise bag, grab and go bag of books from the library, and our libraries are just shutting down again now. The book is The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. Yeah, I thought that was it. Donna prefers mystery most often and thriller and suspense now and then. Yeah, that's exactly me too. Inking Your Thinking. Modern day thrillers sometimes get too much a kick out of the violence. A good story doesn't need that. That's an interesting thought, and I think that I agree with that. Like, there does seem to be this, kind of oftentimes over the top violence or too much description of the violence, and you definitely don't need that. And I actually honestly think that a lot of times it's scarier if less is said. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's the Jaws scenario, right? Like, the shark was scarier when you couldn't see it. Like, the majority of that movie, you never saw the shark. You never really saw the shark. You saw Finn, and you saw what happened because of the shark. But I honestly think that it was scarier because you never actually, at least at the beginning of the movie, saw the shark. And I agree. I think that's less is more in books too. That a good story, I agree with you. It doesn't need all the gratuitous violence and stuff like that. Shannon, grab and go bags. Yeah. So I revealed earlier in the show, I revealed the books that I got in here. I just told them that I wanted mysteries, and in the form that we filled out, you were able to tell them a few of your favorite authors, and then they picked books. And so there was some great options in there. Donna, the girl with the dragon tattoo, is very intense, but justice is served. Interesting there, because I do like that. Like, I like books or movies where there is clear justice. I don't like ambiguous endings, and I don't like it when the killer gets away with it. I like justice. Helen doesn't like overt violence in books. Actually, I just hate violence. Yeah. In books or not. Yes, Helen. This is true. And Inking Your Thinking. Yeah, subtlety can be much, much more intense, for sure. And Shannon, that is totally right. Often what you're imagining is far scarier or far creepier than what actually it is. Marilyn says that she agrees 100% that less is more. Gisela, I inspired you to find and start reading Hercule Poirot, the complete short stories, starting at next sprint. Yay! Oh, that's very exciting. I really like Poirot short stories. And actually, if that is, who is the publisher of that? Because I just found out, and I said this in my latest Agatha Christie video, because I read the Regatta Mysteries, and there was a mystery in there called the Regatta Mystery, where Parker Pyne is the detective. And I found out that originally Agatha Christie wrote that story as a Hercule Poirot short story, and then when it was published in that collection of the Regatta Mysteries, that she changed her detective to Parker Pyne. But there is a complete short story collection of the Hercule Poirot short stories that has the Regatta Mystery with Hercule Poirot, and it's kind of one of the only collections now where you can read that story with Hercule as the detective. I'm wondering if the collection you have has that story. Interesting. Donna says that she doesn't like to be shocked or scared by a movie or a book. I do like to be creeped, though. A creepy movie or series, creepy is more subtle. Yes. So, like, that's exactly right. You know, like the jump scares, you know, in horror, and I don't watch horror movies, but like that is that shocking or scared, whereas something that's just creepy. Yeah, I think that I agree with that. Creepy is much, much more subtle. Shannon likes short stories. I'm coming around. I used to say that I didn't like short stories, but I've been reading more recently and I've changed my mind about that. I do actually, I don't like every short story, obviously, but I'm coming around. I've realized I do like short stories. Inking Your Thinking is reading a Poirot short story too, The Plymouth Express. Is that the short story that she turned into the full-length novel called The Mystery of the Blue Train? It might be. Does someone get killed on a train and a jewel is stolen in that short story? Because if that's the case, then that might be that one. You read Poirot too late this afternoon? I'm not sure I understand. Sorry. Helen says, yeah, Helen doesn't like horror. No. I'm too much of a wuss. I can't handle horror. Oh, so it is. It probably is. She's done that a few times with short stories. Agatha Christie has taken a short story and then expanded it and turned it into a full-length novel. Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, that is very interesting when that happens. So I noticed that, and I talked about that in the video that I did, my Agatha Christie video, because I noticed that a couple different times with short stories in that Regatta Mystery collection. There was the one that she changed the detective from Hercule Poirot to Parker Pyne, and then there was another story in there called Yellow Iris that she then a few years later expanded into a full-length book. But she again changed the detective from Hercule Poirot to Colonel Race, which is fascinating. Colonel Race or Superintendent Battle? Colonel Race, I think. So I find that really, really interesting. What do you guys think about that? Like, why do you think an author would choose to change the detective in a story? And have you read any other famous authors that have had short stories that they have then later expanded into full-length novels? I find that interesting too. Shannon says she prefers horrors in movies, especially if it's ghosts or paranormal. Okay, yeah, I can see that. Your phone switched to Dutch. That's totally fine. I should learn how to speak Dutch. That would be great, actually. Yes, not a problem at all. So what do you guys think about that? About authors who decide to switch around their detectives? Why do you think they would do that? Like the Regatta Mystery, that short story. So this is a good example because that's a short story where there's a group of people and one of them earlier in their acquaintance had let them know that he's got this large diamond that he's carrying with them, and he showed it to them. And then in the short story, they're sitting down to a meal together, and a girl at the meal suggests a bet, and she says, I bet that I can steal that diamond from you, and you know, during this meal in front of everyone. And so he takes her up on the bet. And then of course she does it, but then it comes out, she says, okay, well, this was my plan. But now the diamond is actually missing. And so that turned into a Parker Pyne mystery. One of the people at the meal who was suspected of stealing the diamond goes to Parker Pyne for help to find out the truth of the matter. So in thinking about that, I thought I could easily see that have been being Hercule Poirot. So why do you think she changed it to Parker Pyne? I find that so interesting. Shannon says, sometimes sci-fi fantasy writers make short stories into novels, but I haven't seen them change the characters. It is interesting, isn't it? Changing the detectives. I wonder if she already had enough Poirot stories and wanted to give someone else a chance. Now, that could be true because that short story was, I think, mid-30s. And up until that point, she had written one Parker Pyne short story collection. And then there were like a few Parker Pyne short stories that had been published in magazines. But by the 30s, we had a few Hercule Poirot novels, as well as short story collections and short stories in magazines. And so Poirot was definitely the more popular detective at the time. So maybe for the collection, maybe she just wanted to give Parker Pyne a little more space on the page. I'm not sure. Helen Clare says, I'm surprised Agatha Christie would change a detective. I always imagined her to have been a decisive person, but maybe on completion she realized this would have worked better with such a person. Yeah, maybe. It's interesting. And I like the one where she had the short story, The Yellow Iris, with Hercule Poirot, and that story makes sense. So he gets this strange phone call to go to a restaurant and to look for the table that has yellow irises on it. And then when he gets there, there's a group of people at the table, and 3 years before, it turns out that the wife of one of the guys at the table had committed suicide by drinking cyanide, I think. And like he was there to remember her, and he didn't think that it was suicide. He thought that it was murder. Well, then she took that short story and she turned it into a full-length novel in the mid-40s called Sparkling Cyanide or Remembered Death. But then she changes the detective to Colonel Race. So that's really interesting because in the first book, you know, it's Poirot and his genius who solves the case. But often with Colonel Race and even like a Superintendent Battle, those guys are like almost barely in the books. Like the bulk of the detection is often done by somebody else. And I can't remember enough about Sparkling Cyanide now to remember if that's the case or not. But Inking, you're thinking, she did. Yeah. And there was a time when she didn't want to write Poirot anymore. Like, although she never went as serious as Arthur Conan Doyle did with like trying to kill off Sherlock Holmes. Yeah. Helen says, I love the idea of her giving someone else a chance. Yeah. And that totally could be it, right? Like, especially when you've got a detective like Poirot. Poirot is such a big character that maybe she just wanted the focus to be somewhere else in the story. Donna, you like short stories a lot. Yeah, I'm totally coming around 100%. I used to think I didn't like them at all, but now interestingly, I still prefer longer short stories to really short stories. I think especially when it comes to mysteries, like they have to be really, really clever short stories for me to like them. Often I like them to be a little bit longer, on the longer end of short stories for mysteries anyways. Donna, wasn't she supposed to not really like Poirot as a character? Yeah, she came to not really like him at all. And I'm not entirely sure why, because he was like kind of one of her most famous detectives, and one of the things that made her really famous. Yeah, I find that interesting for sure. Helen says that Poirot can dominate a story, but in a good way. Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Now, Poirot's not perfect, and yeah, he can be arrogant and all of that, but I will confess, I like him. I like Poirot as a character, as a detective. I think he's great. I think he's funny. Um, and his relationship with the people he works with, I like that. Like when Hastings is around, I like their relationship, and him and Ariadne Oliver are pretty funny together too. Yeah, I do generally really like Poirot. All right, what do you guys think of doing another reading sprint in a couple minutes? So at like quarter two, we'll do another reading sprint if you guys are up to that, because this has gotten now really exciting and I need to know what's going to happen. So I am a little over, I've got about 150 pages left maybe in here, and I have some ideas about where it's going, but of course I could be completely wrong. I don't mind when I'm completely wrong, actually. That's very entertaining. And honestly, if it's well written, I don't mind if I'm right either. Um, if it's too easy, then I don't like that. But if it's well written and I had to work hard to get there, I don't mind it if I guess it in the end. Yeah. Okay, so if it's okay with you guys, then we'll do a reading sprint at quarter two in a couple of minutes. And then after that reading sprint, I was thinking, I had started this and then we got distracted with other things, which is okay because I don't, honestly, I don't mind being distracted by Agatha Christie. I will always be distracted by Agatha Christie. But after this reading sprint, I was going to have a chat about libraries. So don't let me forget that there was something I was thinking about there with libraries. But yeah, so if it's okay with you guys, then in about 45 seconds, we will start our third reading sprint. And Emily, you can keep going with Bluebird if if that's what you still feel like reading. And Helen, that'll give Helen a chance to read some more from And Then There Were None, which is amazing. It's so good. I just finished a reread of it. And because it was a reread, I was able this time to read it really looking for the crafting of the plot and the clues and how everything played out and was put together. And it was really fun to read it that way, to read it with that lens on. And I tried to read it in one sitting as well, so that I could get like a good solid view of it. And it was just so entertaining. Of course, it's not perfect, but it's quite good. And there's a reason why it's the gold standard for isolated closed circle mysteries. It's just so well done. And the tension, the way she manages to keep the tension the whole time, but also, like to elevate it, like you see the people on the island slowly fall apart. It's just so brilliant. Okay, so here we go. Let's do our third reading sprint. I'm going to set the timer for 20 minutes, starting now. Okay, here we go. Third reading sprint. Woohoo! Oh, oops. All right, there goes the timer, 20 minutes. Whoa, this book's getting good. Interesting stuff. So I read like about 30 pages. Interesting. Okay, how did you guys do? All right. Ooh, I missed some chat. Let's see. Okay, so Gisela, it might be there in your collection. Interesting. Helen. Poirot, he is unapologetically self-confident. That's exactly right. Great way to describe Poirot. Ooh, and Shannon's working out whether or not she likes a new character in her book. Very good. Emily is continuing with Bluebird. Yeah, Helen. So Helen is reading And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie. And it's probably even better now, if that is even possible. Yeah. I agree with you, Helen, 100%. Donna says, so many authors say that their characters take over. Maybe that is what happened in these cases. Maybe. That's a good thought, Donna. Very true. Michelle, cool. Maybe it had to do with the U.S. rights to the story. Maybe. Oh, that's an interesting thought. Jackie Lou's book queue. Hi, welcome here, Jackie. Just saw you were live. Nice to see everyone. Nice to see you too. Shannon says, oh, Shannon, you liked And Then There Were None too? Yeah, it's a gooder. Okay, so everybody had a good reading sprint? Put down your books if you're still reading now. I'm just kidding. I'll never tell anybody to stop reading. You can keep reading as long as you want to. Michelle, hey Michelle. She got 10 pages in New Moon by Stephanie Meyer. Getting ready to watch the grandkids. Cool. Well, I'm glad that you're here. Is that sounds like that's part of the Twilight series? Is that the one that Stephanie Myers did? Shannon's got 5 pages read. They introed a whole investigative team. Oh, wow. Yeah. It can be tricky in a book when they introduce too many characters all at the same time. I'm not sure what I feel about that, although it happens so often. But I mean, often, like these are the people in the book. You got to get to know them. You got to introduce them at some point. Although in this case, they're on the investigative team. It's different when they're like the suspects that you're being introduced to, for sure. You might have to go back to that page, Shannon, and remind yourself who everybody is. Emily forgot to mark where she started, but I think I read about 20 minutes. Yeah. Oh, 20 pages. Yeah. Very good. Michelle. Yeah. I've never read that series. Bookmark the page so that you can go back to it if you need to remind yourself who's who on the investigative team. Although I do like reading that sometimes too. I mean, I do like, the book where you have your one detective that you're following and sometimes they'll have a sidekick. But I do periodically enjoy those books where you get the whole investigative team and you get like everybody has kind of a different speciality or something else they bring to the game. I like those police procedurals sometimes. Hello, Tish. Nice to see you here. First time doing this? Well, you are very welcome. Yeah, so we're just chatting and then in about 10 minutes or so, we're going to do another reading sprint. So welcome here. Okay, so before we went on that last reading sprint, I said that we were going to talk a bit about libraries. I was just thinking about libraries because, of course, I had just gotten from our library this great grab and go bag, is what they're calling it. But they're surprise bags of books, and you can request between 5 and 20 books in your bag. I requested 5 because I was trying to be prudent. I love my library, and I have really, really missed just hanging out in the library, browsing in the library. We have multiple branches here in the city, and I like going to the various different ones and just hanging out. Inking Your Thinking. It was the same with Nemesis. So many characters to remember in the beginning. Yeah, that's true. And Nemesis, with Agatha Christie, Nemesis there was a lot of characters. Yeah. Donna got 10 pages in. Well, you got to take care of your dogs, Donna, for sure. So I love hanging out in libraries. And I've been thinking about like some of the holidays that I've taken, and I've realized that if possible, I like to visit the libraries of where we are when we're on holiday. So for example, let's see, 10 years ago, it was at least 10 years ago, we were in England for a couple weeks. And we started out in London. We spent about 4 days in London. And so we visited the British Library. I mean, how could you not visit the British Library, right? Which was amazing. And of course, they have a room where they have manuscripts for you to look at, so exhibitions, right? And so we saw some Jane Austen manuscripts and a Shakespeare folio and just a whole bunch of really cool stuff. Some stuff by Leonardo da Vinci, his notebooks. Donna. Oh, yes. I will get back to this in a bit, Donna. It's really good. The sanatorium so far, it's been really good. Isolated mystery up in the Swiss Alps. Yeah. So far, so good. Helen, you used to work at the British Library in the reading room. Are you kidding me? That is awesome. Oh my goodness, that is so awesome. We have another librarian here, Emily. They're from the Redhead is Reading. She works in the library system too. She works in Texas. Oh my goodness, that's so amazing. I miss browsing so much. Inking Your Thinking. I know. I do. I love just spending time browsing in the library, grabbing some books, looking through them, going and browsing some more. I just love it so much. Shannon, libraries. Wow. Visiting a library on vacation. I never would have thought of that. So cool. Okay. So I totally do. And I don't know if that makes me a nerd or what, but, Carolyn, hi, welcome here. Woo woo. Yeah, Emily is a public librarian. Yeah. Tish, this past year, I recently got a library card again. Our libraries are just opening up. I requested books today. Look forward to picking them up. Sweet. Yeah, that's awesome. Working at the British Library is goals. Yeah. So we visited, and of course, there's not a ton you can see in the British Library. What we didn't have time for was to go to the British Museum, because I would have loved to have seen the reading room in the British Museum. We visited libraries when we can, and we visit bookstores, of course, too. So we were at a bookstore on Gloucester Road in London, and we chose that one because they also sold those mugs with penguin book titles on them, and I wanted to get one of those. Helen, I was an administrative officer and had to retrieve books and photocopies for customers. That is so awesome. Yeah, I love that. And then we went, after London, we went to Oxford, and we got a tour of the Bodleian Library, which was so cool because it's such an old library. It was amazing. It was so great. I loved that, visiting the Bodleian. And then we saw the outside of what's it called in Oxford, that round It's near the Sheldonian Theater, the round reading room or whatever. There's also books in there, but we didn't get to go inside of that. Um, Carolyn, I haven't been to my physical library in a year, which breaks my heart because I love just hanging out and browsing for at least an hour. Oh yeah, 100%. Ooh, you volunteered at your library. That would be really fun. Tish visited New York City a few years back, made sure to visit the library with the lions out front. Yes. So I would totally love to visit the New York City Public Library. That would be amazing. So that's where I was going with this is, are there famous libraries that you would like to visit if you ever get to a city? So yes, the New York Public Library is definitely one. Carolyn says Oxford is on your bucket list. Yeah. So the Bodleian was amazing. I absolutely loved that we got to visit the Bodleian Library. Oh, Helen. Okay. So you worked for one based in Yorkshire. That's awesome. I need to come and visit Yorkshire. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's on my bucket list too, for sure. Tish. That's totally what I would do too. If the family goes shopping, I would go to the library. 100%. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. There's something about just randomly picking stuff up, looking at books, browsing around. Yeah. Ooh, Carolyn got to visit the New York Public Library in January of 2019. Sweet. Yes, Emily, Trinity College Dublin. I definitely want to visit that library too. That library looks gorgeous. My mother-in-law got to visit that library. She was in Ireland for like 6 weeks a few years ago, and I'm fairly certain she was at Trinity College in Dublin. I know for sure she was in Dublin. I'm pretty sure that she got to go there too. Claire says, come and visit. Yeah, no travel for the foreseeable future. I know. Our city, I was just saying earlier that our city is heading into another lockdown starting tomorrow because our numbers have skyrocketed. And this is nothing for our city to be proud of, but we are leading the nation in the number of cases of variants for COVID. So go Regina. So, but as far as other libraries in the world, about not quite 3 years ago, my husband and I went on a trip to Ottawa, which is Canada's capital city. And so, we visited Parliament and did all of those things. But one of my favorite things was during our tour of the Parliament buildings, we got to go visit the Parliament Library, which was really cool. So it's a circular library. It has a really cool dome. It was gorgeous, and we weren't allowed to browse. We were allowed to go into a certain point, and then we just had to look from where we were. But it was gorgeous, and it was really cool. A really cool design. I love the circular nature of it and the fact that it had a dome. It was really, really beautiful. Anywhere, Scotland, Ireland, and England. Yeah, definitely. 100%. Shannon. Oh, you're in Toronto. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what's been going on the past week and a half. The numbers here in the city have been just skyrocketed. Donna says, I think I've gotten to know the library personnel better since curbside. Oh, that's interesting. We have shared information about families' health and COVID, and the local branch has been renovated during shutdown. See, now that's one of the advantages of shutdown is that it allows for that stuff. And that's interesting that you have more of a chance to chat with personnel during curbside pickups. That's good, though. I mean, I love that I at least recognize the staff that work at my particular branch that I go to most often. Helen says we are just coming out of our third lockdown in the UK. Can't wait for the libraries and charity shops to open. Yeah. And of course ours are now just shutting down again. Inking your thinking. University libraries are interesting too, but not always open to the public. Yes, that's totally true. When we were in Oxford, we did visit one of the colleges, Balliol, I think was the name. But even then, we couldn't see everything, and we did get to see the hall, the dining hall, and a few places, and the chapel and everything, but we didn't get in to see their particular college library. But often those are gorgeous as well. And even like a lot of the universities in the States, say, for example, or even up here in Canada, some of the older universities would have gorgeous libraries. Like I would love to visit the library at Harvard in Boston, and probably even Princeton too, I imagine would have a pretty great library. Oh, Redo Hall has, oh, that's interesting. Now, we didn't actually go get in to see Redo Hall. We did a bus tour and we drove. Is that where the Governor General lives? I'm getting confused now. We drove by there, around there, but we didn't get to stop and think it wasn't currently open to the public when we were there. So yeah, so I mean, that's kind of one of the funny things about Aaron and I. When we plan our trips, our holidays, we like to stop at libraries, excuse me, or bookstores even. Um, yeah, it would be cool to see, Shannon. You're right, 100%. So another example is, let's see, 12 or 13 years ago, we were in Switzerland for a couple of weeks. Aaron was doing an MBA and he needed to do a week-long on-site course at the university that he was taking it through. So we were in Zurich for a couple of weeks. And so the first 5 days, Aaron was in classes all day. And the hotel we were at was in this square. And kind of one side of the square was the hotel, and another side of the square was where his class was. So it was really convenient for him. But I had all this time on my hands when he was in class all day. And so we were really close to a tram stop. So what I ended up doing was I would just get up, have breakfast and everything, and then get on the tram and take it to Old Town, because the Old Town Zurich is gorgeous. It's so fantastic. And I would just wander, and I visited, cathedrals and churches, and I would just wander up and down and look at the shops and stuff. And I discovered this bookstore, and I was like, sweet. And even though I was like, okay, these books are going to be in French or German or a language that I don't speak, but it's a bookstore, I'm going in 100%. Old libraries. Oh yeah, for sure. I Google good bookstores in the area wherever I go somewhere new. Yeah, totally, Carolyn, right? Ooh, Helen, yeah. So, I mean, yeah, Zurich it was beautiful. Local history, local branch of the municipal system was established out of the book collection made available to people suffering from TB here in the area when our air was clean. That is cool. I love learning stuff like that. That's awesome. Yeah. So I went into this bookstore, and the vast majority of it was, the books were not in English, but there was a small section. It was a spinning rack of English books, and I was super excited. So this really nice woman ran this bookstore, but she did not speak English, which was okay because, book lovers, you can make yourselves understood. So I was fine when I found this rack of English books, but I needed to visit the washroom. So trying to ask her if she had a washroom in the store was hilarious. And so basically it turned into me just going, toilet. Anyway, she was very nice, and she did, there was a staff bathroom that she very kindly let me use. So that was really funny. But I still remember I found Anaya Marsh at that bookstore that I bought. And so, yeah, that was very fun. So yeah, I mean, I just love visiting the libraries and bookstores, and so there are many more in the world that I want to visit for sure. Um, yeah. Carolyn, about 9 years ago, I visited college friends in Inverness and had 4 days when all my friends were busy, but my hotel was within walking distance of downtown Inverness. So I just wandered around and hung out in Waterstones every day. Yeah, you know what, Carolyn? Great minds think alike. I would have done the same thing. Inverness, though, that's awesome. I would love to visit Inverness. Yes, I am so glad that she figured it out too. Although I think there's that universal signal, like when you when you're doing the dance of like I have to visit the washroom. Yeah. And I got a book out of it too. I know. It was great. It was a great experience. She was a very nice lady. Yeah. So I mean it was super fun. I just loved wandering around, and there was lots of parks and outdoor areas, and like it was just, yeah, it was so much fun. There's a fabulous secondhand bookshop in Alnwick. Is that how you say it? Alnwick? Here in the UK, called Barter Books. It's huge. It's in an old railway station. Love visiting whenever I go up to Northumberland. That sounds fantastic. Now, I'm thinking I may have seen a picture of Barter Books. I, Catherine from Jane Catherine on Books. She has a channel here on BookTube. And I think that she visited Barter Books. This sounds like the same place. And she took us into the store with her. This would have been a few years ago she posted this video. I'm fairly certain it was Barter Books. And an old railway station, that does sound right. If it's what I'm thinking of, um, yeah, it looked like a fantastic bookshop, one that I would 100% want to visit. Okay, that would have been hilarious if she showed me all the books that she had on toilets. That would have been funny. Very funny. Oh dear, Helen. Yeah, yeah, traveling can be expensive, but when you can do it, it is so great. Jackie Lou, Donna, that sounds amazing. Yeah, it does. Right, Tish? Books and train stations. I know. Fabulous. Fabulous. Helen hasn't been to Barter Books yet. Yeah, it sounds fantastic. I would totally want to go. So the funny thing is even when you're there on a trip, you don't ever get to everywhere you want to go, right? Like we were in London for 4 days and we never went to a Waterstones. Although back then at that point, I don't even know if I had ever heard of Waterstones before, but we had also never been to, like, there's a couple really famous bookstores in London and we didn't get a chance to go to those either. Um, I'm trying to think of the name of, I can't think of it. We did go and wander around Cecil Court, which has a few bookshops in that little alleyway or whatever. We did do that, which was awesome. And then I didn't discover this until after our trip to England, but there's now like a book barge. Have you guys heard of that? What's that one called now? It's a bookstore on a barge, and so it'll just like stop at certain points on the canal and you can go and look, and I think that sounds really cool too. I like that idea of bookstores in kind of unique or unusual settings, so that's really cool, like the barge idea, or the bookstore in the railway station that you were saying. Oh, Catherine or Emily, I don't know if they allow links in these. You may have to wait, and once this um, is up in the regular comments. You can probably put the link in the regular comments, but it doesn't look like it's showing up here. Waterstones is epic. I think Waterstones probably sounds like Chapters. Chapters is the big bookstore here in Canada, or I guess now it's called Indigo. Emily, you are so right. You could 100% have a bookish vacation in London. Bookshops and cool literary sites. Oh yeah, 100% you could. The world's greatest bookstores. That would be a great book, Carolyn. Yeah. I'm trying to remember what that barge bookshop was called, and I can't remember. So a couple summers ago, Erin and I took a short summer vacation here in the province, and we decided to make it related to books, and we called it our book Odyssey. And we made stops in small towns. We kind of did a tour between here and Saskatoon, which is another city about 3 hours away. But we primarily visited smaller towns, and the whole idea was to visit bookshops or libraries in these small towns. And it was so much fun. It was such a great vacation. Yeah, it's not showing up. I think you may have to wait and put it in the comments once this is recorded or whatever. UK is the UK Barnes and Noble. We don't have Barnes and Noble here in Canada, so it's the UK Barnes and Noble, or the UK, or for Canada, the Chapters or Indigo. There was a store here in Toronto called the World's Biggest Bookstore. Oh, that would have been awesome. It was pre-Chapters. Yeah. Ooh, Edinburgh for bookshops. I can imagine that would be amazing. Yeah, I need to visit there too. I've never been to Scotland, but yeah, that would be amazing. We used to live in Winnipeg, which is in Manitoba, and there was a couple of great bookshops in Winnipeg. One of them was called the Red River Bookshop, which was in the warehouse district downtown, and it was in this great old brick building, and that was a really cool bookshop. Helen, you're right. Ordering online isn't the same. I mean, I love that that's an option for us, especially in our current world, but you're right. It just isn't the same at all. Okay, so what do you guys think of doing another reading sprint in about 6 minutes? So at 22 the hour, we will do another reading sprint. Yeah, because I need to keep going in this book. It's getting very, very interesting. So Donna was asking, this is a book that is set in the Swiss Alps, in a brand new hotel that has just opened. It's been renovated from an old sanatorium. It used to have patients that had TB. And so the new hotel it's a brand new hotel that's open up in the Swiss Alps. And our main character, Ellen, and her boyfriend have gone there for an engagement party. Her brother, Lucas, is engaged to Laure, who works at the hotel. And they've gone for an engagement party. And then there's this huge snowstorm, and there is threat of an avalanche, and the hotel has to be evacuated. But before the very last bus goes, there is an avalanche, and everybody who is left is stuck at the hotel. And so it becomes cut off. So that's great. And so there are 45 staff and 8 guests that are left in the hotel. And then they find a body. So yeah, so far it's been really good. It's been interesting because there's been a lot about the history of the hotel is important. The fact that it used to be a sanatorium is important to the story. Yeah. So I'm going to be keeping up with this on our next reading sprint. because yeah, now I'm down to like the last 100 pages in this book. So gotta know what's happening. There have been more bodies, and yeah. And so it's great, of course, because when you're cut off like that, you know, there's no help coming, but so far the phone lines are still up. So she's on the phone with the police who can't come, and she's a police officer in the UK, and so they're letting her investigate. But of course, she's on her own with no actual authority, trying to keep all these people in the hotel calm. Yeah, I love that kind of a situation. It's great. Not that I would ever want to be in that situation. I love reading about that situation. Yeah. Hotels and avalanches. Yeah. 100%. Ooh, Carolyn's listening to Thunder on the Right by Mary Stewart. Who are you buddy reading with, Carolyn? I just read a Mary Stewart. I read Nine Coaches Waiting. It was really good. I liked it. So yeah, it's interesting. There's a lot in here about history. There's a lot in here about sibling relationships, because there's the sibling relationship between our main character and her brother, but then there's also the owner of the hotel and his sister are important in the story, and possibly another family relationship too. So that's interesting. Donna, thinking local again, 7th Ave Books near my home curates boxes of romance, mysteries, Nancy Drews, etc. to sell online. A couple of booktubers from out of state or country have hauled from 7th Ave. That's interesting. Oh, I might have to look them up, Donna. That sounds interesting. I love that idea of curating a box of books. Yeah, that's awesome. You're doing a buddy read with Ange from Beyond the Pages? Very good. And how are you enjoying Thunder on the Right? I haven't read that one yet. Yeah. Nine Coaches Waiting was really fun. It was, yeah, like just for her to trying to figure out what's happening. And yeah, so she goes to be a governess for this boy in France. And then there's these accidents that start happening. And, you know, the question is this little boy safe or not? Because he is the heir to a fortune and a great, great house. Yeah, the sanatorium. So far, so good, Carolyn. Yeah, shipping. Oh, well. Oh, it's a used bookstore. Oh, Donna, that's fascinating. Very, very interesting. Yeah, I can't remember now what Thunder on the Right is, but sometimes with Mary Stewart, they are a little slow to get going, but then when they get going, they really do get going. Donna, Shiver by Ali Reynolds. I actually have that too from the library, and I'm really interested in that one too. Mountain Storms, Avalanches, and Mysteries. Yeah, because it's a group of people, isn't it, doing a reunion? And I think in that one, they're in the French Alps, I think. But yeah, similar idea, at a hotel up in the mountains, and then they get cut off. Oh yeah, so entertaining. I don't think Agatha Christie knew what she was doing when she when she wrote And Then There Were None, because she spawned a whole subgenre of fantastic mysteries. That isolated, closed circle. I love that so much. Helen. I think it could very well be a trope, Shannon. The reunion goes wrong. Oh, yeah, because that does happen quite a lot. Yeah. All right. If you guys are up for it, it is 22. Let's do another reading sprint. I am going to set the timer for 20 minutes. And here we go. Yeah, Carolyn, I think it is a trope too. All right, 20 minutes. All right, there's the timer. Okay, how did it go, everybody? I had some internet problems there for a few minutes or a minute, but we got back on, so that's okay. So I read 21 pages. Yes, Emily, weirdos are coming on here, and I don't know why. I'm blocking them as fast as I can. That's not, I don't like that at all. I don't know how they do Carolyn, but I block them as soon as I can. I don't know what else I can do about it. Very annoying. Okay, but how did your reading go? Yeah, so I've got about 80 pages left in this, and it's really good. Oh my gosh. And I think like there's very good chance that these people, it's all the same person with like multiple channels just messing around. Ooh, Marilyn, you read Yellow Iris, the Poirot short story. What did you think? That's the one that was later turned into Sparkling Cyanide or Remembered Death. Shannon, ooh, 26 pages. Yeah, that's good. Good for you, Emily, for reporting them. Yeah. Helen, nearly finished. Oh, that's perfect. You're reading a story about an island blocked off because of a storm while it's storming. That's perfect. That is perfect. Oh, good, Marilyn. You liked it. Yeah, I like Poirot too, and that's that one is a good one. It's interesting because Poirot is at home and he gets this like enigmatic phone call and he decides to go, and within an hour or so is able to figure out what's happening and solve it and even prevent a further death. So that's cool. Ooh, the Plymouth Express. Now, what is the Five Orange Pipes? Is that the Sherlock Holmes story, the Five Orange Pips? Or is that another Agatha Christie that I'm not familiar with? Emily read about 20 pages. Yeah, me too. Excellent. So we only have a few days left in the month. We have got four and a half days. So what are you guys hoping to finish for the month or for March Mystery Madness? Five Orange Pips is definitely a Sherlock Holmes story, but I think that there might be an Agatha Christie story with a similar title. I don't know. Carolyn. Jackie's reading A Beautiful Blue Death. Hope to finish for this month. Ooh, that's with Charles Finch, right? The Charles Lennox story. I really like that series. That's a great one. If that's the one I'm thinking of, it's a historical mystery set during Victorian times. That's a great one. So that's what you're hoping to finish this month. Excellent. If I can, I don't see a problem with this. I will finish Yeah, Charles Finch. I'm going to finish The Haunting of Maddie Clare by Simone St. James. I've just started this. I'm not even 30 pages into this. And Helen, I think you were the one saying you like a good ghost story. Well, this is one. The main character is Sarah, and she works for an agency, and she gets sent to do secretarial work for a guy who documents ghostly events. And so she goes with him to investigate Maddie Clare, a teenage maid who committed suicide in a barn, and supposedly her ghost has appeared in that barn. All right, Tish, you're finished your prompts for March Mystery Madness. Excellent. One for the Money. Is that a reread for you, or have you never read that before? Tish is a cozy mystery reader. I love that series by Janet Ivanovich with Stephanie Plum. Shannon, yeah, those Girl with the Dragon Tattoo series, those books are quite long, aren't they? They're a commitment when you start to read those. Donna, you've got the Charles Finch on your Kindle. That's a good series. Yeah, the Sherlock Holmes ones, the 5 Orange Pips. That's a good short story. Marilyn is finishing her time prompt. Excellent. Helen, one more book for March Mystery Madness, but haven't decided which one yet. Yeah, it's very exciting when you can. I love that, being in that state of trying to decide the next book to read. Carolyn is hoping to finish Thunder on the Right. And then a Neil Gaiman. Ooh, you're attending a virtual event. Fun. Oh, wait. Marilyn says, and then you have the space prompt to finish. Okay. Shannon, yeah, about 600 pages. Yeah. Yeah, those ones are long ones. Okay, you saw the movie, but you haven't read the books. The books are great. They're very humorous. Her grandma is such a fantastic character. Yeah, they're entertaining. Carolyn says, if I finish those, I want to listen to At Bertram's Hotel by Agatha Christie. Excellent. Very good. Donna, wow, you've completed 14 books for the prompt so far. You've had a great month. Nice. Helen, I thought it was you that loved a good ghost story. Have you read this one then? Have you read any Simone St. James? I've never read anything by her, and she's currently quite popular on BookTube. Her newer books I've been hearing a lot about. Ooh, and you'll have completed the prompts when you finish this book? Nice. And then Carolyn, yeah, Donna, good for you. And then this is going to be for my bonus prompt, My Foe Outstretched Beneath the Tree by V.C. Clinton Badley from 1968. This is because one that the title caught my attention. And it's a nice short one to finish the month off. It's only got 192 pages, so I can finish that one up pretty easily. Okay, so we've been over 3 hours here, and it's been awesome, and I'm loving it. So the question is, are you guys up for another sprint, or are you ready for it to be all done now? What do you guys think? I'm fine either way, because I'm going to be finishing my book anyway. So yeah, whatever you guys want to do. All right, Tish had a hard time finding a single word title in a cozy. That is true, actually. Cozies don't often have single word titles. Although you could get clever, and rather than a single word title, it could be something about something single, like a single person. So like Sarah from the Bookish Knitter read The Bachelor Girl's Guide to Murder, and a bachelor is a single person. So you could kind of do a different take on it there. But then you found on Audible Knockout by Mia Gould. There you go. So that's a single word title. Perfect. Carolyn says, I think I have to go back and see if my books fit any of the prompts once I finish them. Do it backwards. That's perfect. Oh, Inking, you finished The Split on Friday? What did you think of that? I would love to know your thoughts about that book. I thought that was very interesting. That is by Sharon Bolton. Carolyn, you're up for another, but you arrived late. That's fine. That's okay. Tish is up for another. Donna's up for another. Jackie can read for a few more minutes. Helen, you haven't read any Simone St. James? Yeah, I haven't either. I've heard a lot about her, but Marilyn has to go. It's been fun. Have a good time with your grandkids, Marilyn. See you next time. Well, this is the last one for my March Mystery Madness one, but this has been really fun. So I'm actually contemplating doing maybe monthly live reading sprints because this has been a lot of fun. So yeah, I'm going to think about that. Emily's up for another one. Shannon, you're all done reading? Yeah, I understand. Helen's up for another sprint. Okay, well, why don't we do one in about 3 minutes at quarter after? We'll do another 20-minute sprint. That's awesome. And I'll get that much closer to finishing my book. It's good. Jackie. Yeah, and I think, yeah, I would just, as long as I give people fair notice of when I do them, yeah, I think monthly ones would be good. One final sprint. Okay. Yeah. So let's do that at quarter after. That would be very fun. Yeah, I'm not going to finish my book, obviously, in that sprint. I don't think I can read 80 pages in 20 minutes, but I could get another 20 pages in. So yeah, this one is good. I'm still not, I had an idea about where this was going, but I'm not sure now if I was right. Yeah, I like it. And I like the fact that she is a trained police officer in this situation, but she's not working and she's in a location where she doesn't actually have any authority. And she's also completely on her own. And so I like that. It has a feel of the amateur sleuth about it, for that. Which one did you read? What book were we talking about? The Simone St. James book or the Split? Anyway, okay, so in a minute here we will do another sprint, and we will figure out. The one thing, there is something that's a bit annoying. So she's been on the phone quite frequently with the actual police officer who does have the authority to investigate. And she's found something out and she's made a decision not to tell him about it in case she's told not to investigate further. And I don't think I like that. I mean, he's been having her investigate anyway, because she's the only one there. So why would he suddenly pull her off? And why does she suddenly feel like she needs to do everything by herself? I mean, there is an element where she thinks that she has something to prove, mostly to herself. But yeah, I mean, I know why an author does that. It's to heighten the tension, but it still kind of is annoying. Okay, I'm setting the timer. Another 20 minutes. Here we go. I've started the timer. Yeah. Oh, you're very welcome, Shannon. Have a great rest of your weekend. All right. Oops. There's the timer. I read 18 pages. Okay. So there is I've got about 60 pages left, so I'll definitely be finishing that this evening. How did it go for the rest of you guys? Turn that off. Yeah, so far so good. Some stuff is being revealed, and some of it I did guess myself. So that's always fun when you're proven right about what you think is happening. But then something else happened that I was not expecting at all either. So, and I'm not sure what I think about it yet. So, yeah. But the book is so far so good. All right. Ooh, Donna would love monthly reading sprints. Yeah, I think I'm going to do those. What do you guys think? I think the weekend is probably the best idea, but then again, midweek in the evenings could work too. What do you guys think? Or like Saturdays or Sundays? I'm not sure, but yeah, I'm really thinking about doing these monthly. Inking Your Thinking. Ooh, the split was very captivating. I figured what it was about fairly early, but didn't mind it because it was done so well. I did too, actually, but I also did really enjoy the book. It was a great story told really well. And you're right, it is a heavy topic, so you had to read something lighter afterwards. Yeah, I get that. Carolyn, things are getting intriguing in your book. Excellent. And yeah, monthly reading sprints. Yeah, I'm thinking that I will. And as long as I schedule it in enough time to give everybody fair notice. Yeah, but I am thinking weekends, like Saturday or Sunday. And I'm thinking probably afternoons so that it would work for my friends over in Europe and the UK, as well as those of us here in Canada and the States. I'm thinking that maybe an early afternoon weekend reading sprint, that would be really fun. Okay, although I think that now is a good time to maybe end this. It's been so much fun. I have loved doing this, and I've loved March Mystery Madness. Has been just so much fun this year. Carolyn says, if you plan to do Saturdays, I'll have to see if it can work. The D&D campaign I'm part of starts next Saturday. I know there's never ever going to be a time that works perfectly for everybody. And I may play around with the schedule a bit. Yeah, because people's work hours vary. Yeah. Ooh, Helen on the penultimate chapter. So good. So good. Monthly reading sprint would be great, Donna. Yeah. I think that I will definitely do it. All right. Well, this has been so much fun. I have loved reading with you guys, and I have loved chatting with you guys. This has been such a wonderful way to spend a Saturday afternoon. I'm glad you could make all four too, Carolyn. It's been really fun hanging out with you. So that's it from me. Watch my channel, and I will schedule a reading sprint for sometime in April. It'll probably be the 3rd or 4th week of April, is my guess, but I don't know for sure. So keep an eye out for that. Oh, good. You're very welcome. Right? It's totally fun to spend some time together, even though we are continents apart and time zones apart. But to read with a friend is so much better than reading on our own. So yeah, it's been fun, Donna, for sure. Okay, well, that's going to be it from me. Have a great rest of your weekend and the last 4 days of March Mystery Madness. I still got my daily videos coming on my channel, and I've got a wrap up for the 31st. So we've got that still to look forward to. It's not quite over yet. And so yeah, so that's it from me. I hope you guys have a great weekend, and I will see you again very soon. All right. Bye. It's not letting me end. All right. Let's see. Oh, this is very funny. It's not letting me end the broadcast. Isn't that hilarious? Oh, dear.